Hello everyone, it's me Carol coming back at you with a new video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my process for making my current rough sheet that I've posted on Twitter and YouTube stories, but haven't officially made like a community post yet, so you might have missed it. But follow my Twitter if you'd like more current updates on stuff. No, wait, maybe you shouldn't. My Twitter is kind of sus sometimes, and I just retweet things that I find funny and also just shitpost sometimes. I guess just follow at your own risk. But moving on, why is a ref sheet important and why do you need it? A ref sheet is pretty important if you're thinking of commissioning other people for art of your character, like for a PNG or live 2D model or just some art that you want to have made. Artists will be more likely to accept your commission if your character has a ref sheet. In addition, it's also very helpful for your viewers or people who are interested in your content to sort of make fan art for you if they would like. When I started VTubing, I didn't have a ref sheet and I only considered its importance when people in my chat started asking if I had one because they wanted to draw me something. And so I was like, oh wait, that's a good reason to have it. I didn't think it was completely necessary because I was doing all of my own art for my models and stuff, so I didn't really think about it. But yeah, after that, I started working on ref sheets. I made a couple of failed ones, or at least ones that I didn't finish. Not exactly failures, but just ones I wasn't completely satisfied with. This one I did actually really like. It's pretty much my first finished one. I feel like the colors are coherent. There is a front and a back, and then some extra expressions to help show character. This one I think still looks really good. There were some reasons why I changed my design and why I moved out of this design, but I won't go over that right now. And then this one was the more recent one before this current one. This one was one I did on stream, kind of. And this is the most recent one, which we will be working on in this video, where I will be showing you the process of how I did everything through a time lapse. And I just want to sort of explain the parts. There is the character full body, front and back. There are some expressions on the side, and there are like some tiny details that I wrote on the side to sort of fill up space. And there is the color palette. If you're not very keen on drawing the full back of your character or having the full body back of your character drawn, you can also just optionally have the details of the back prints of your designs, or maybe zooms in on the details or the patterns of your designs instead of having a full body. Like here, I do show off like little details like the book and the little fountain pen. I think for the ref sheet, it matters what works well for you or what works well for your means. It doesn't have to be fully detailed, it just has to show off the important parts of your design. Full body is preferred, but I think some people just do like half body if they're not asking people to draw their full body. I think full bodies are only for like models, like full live 2D models and chibis. But yeah, that's my explanation for the importance of a ref sheet. And now that it's done, I will be explaining my process for how I made my ref sheet. So to begin my process, I usually just draw the anatomical base, or I don't know what it's called, like a body guide for the full body. So it's just I draw the character and its proportions, and this will be different for everyone. Depends on what character you have, what body type they have, what species they are, if they have a tail or if they have ears. You can probably add that in the body guide. I recommend picking out some references of other body types that are similar to your characters and maybe just like look them up and sort of use them as a reference if you're not too good with drawing full bodies yet. Here I'm sort of using a symmetrical ruler to sort of mirror the drawings that I do so that I only have to draw technically one side of the drawing. And most programs do have a symmetry ruler. I don't know if Photoshop does, but Clip Studio, Ibis, Procreate, they have symmetry rulers and I usually use them. I'm actually using this symmetrical view of the anatomy or the body guide as a guide for the actual pose that I'll be doing for the ref sheet. I think a direct front view of the model or your design should be fine. But for me, I prefer to usually draw them at an angle, like a 1/3 usually. And so here I'm using the front view that we drew with the symmetrical ruler as a sort of guide for the proportions, and I am drawing on top of it with a slightly tilted body. So here it would be slightly tilted facing the other side with the hand on the hip. Basically, I want the character to have a more organic stance that seems more natural instead of stiff. You don't have to do it this way, but for me, I do prefer how this looks, and even if some details are hidden away, I would prefer to have the stance rather than the details, which is kind of contradictory to the rough sheet. But I do make up for it, usually with the back view or some other parts. If I know that the details will be covered, I'll try to make up for it with another drawing. Thankfully, my design is simple and somewhat symmetrical, so a lot of the details that do get covered are shown on the side that does show. I usually use a lot of liquify tool to sort of sort out the pose and the proportions, because sometimes the stance is correct but the balance is not quite there and you just need to make little adjustments. That's why I kind of overuse the liquify tool sometimes. It really does help me out and speeds up my process. So this is actually post-recorded. I actually did not record this for the time-lapse of the actual rough sheet making, so I'm just recording it now so that I can show you the process of the body guide that I did not manage to record with the Procreate time-lapse. So here we're skipping a little bit. I'm sorry. You can sort of see the back body guide in the back of the sketch, but this is where I started recording on Procreate because I wasn't initially thinking of making a tutorial or anything. I just wanted to sort of sketch, so I did not have my time-lapse feature on. So there's that. Here I already have the head. I'm sorry if I can't go through the details of the drawing the head. I think it's fine. If we're gonna do a tutorial like that, it'll be just like a separate video, more on the art slash face drawing focused video. But for here, you can sort of see me test out different designs and just like draw and erase and draw and erase and just like have different layers. I actually have like the different variations I do end up liking. I save on different layers so I can check them later and sort of just skim through them and figure out which one I'll decide on. So I test out a bunch of different designs before I decide on this high collar, which is very reminiscent of my very first design. I wasn't quite set on it yet, so I did try out a different design, which is this kind of sailor-ish outfit that I can't explain, that I didn't end up using in the end because I was like, I don't know, I don't feel it. And then I also tried out a more regal outfit, which is sort of reminiscent of the design that I had before my current redesign. I think during this process, I was just sort of pulling out different inspirations from designs that I have already liked, and also just different ideas that I've come up with. And that's just sort of the point of my current redesign. Is just like, what worked, what didn't work, and what do I feel like doing for my new design. Sort of a trial and error process, and I also wanted to make a new mascot, so we're doing that here. And I think I did decide on this because I really like the cut and the silhouette of the entire outfit. And I also added the kimono mimi and some wings. These are just some design aspects that I've always thought of having. The wings I think I've had earlier on in my designs, and the horns are also reminiscent of the first design that I had. But the cat ears are sort of things that I always draw on my Vtuber, but I don't have in the official design. And you know what? I think this time I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. Since we're gonna go for a sort of overhaul, I just wanted to pick the design that spoke most to me. And here I am drawing the sort of back view. At first, I wasn't gonna do a full back view. I just wanted to show the back of the jacket, which I thought was an important detail. And also the hole in the pants where the tail would come out of, which I also thought was an important detail. And here I'm just trying to frame it. And also, I think I test out a ponytail as well, but I was like, no, that's too much. There's a tail and a ponytail. Yeah, I'm just sort of, you can see me just like undoing and redoing and just sort of trying different things out. I sort of expand the canvas when I decide that, I can add more things to this rough sheet. And I start drawing like little portraits, little expressions and poses to sort of add some character to the ref sheet. A lot of these don't actually make the final cut. I think the ref sheet just turned out too busy for me, and I found that it was really hard to look at. So I did end up cutting a lot of things and a lot of details just so I could have more comprehensive ref sheet. And I was kind of really sad about removing the chibi and the little pirus, but I couldn't fit them anywhere where they didn't like take up too much of the screen. Sadly, a lot of them don't end up in the final ref sheet. I actually really like this one. It's sort of like a nice outer concept for the design. But I thought the balance of it with the like board look was just sort of different. It's just like one is a bit much and one is just like chilling. So I didn't end up keeping these sketches, and they look really nice now that I'm looking back at them. But they just didn't fit the design later on, so I had to like just get rid of them. And then I do start testing out colors. This is probably the last thing that I did in Procreate because I did want to do the rendering on Clip Studio instead on the PC. Procreate has a layer limit, and I was running out of layers, and it was getting very difficult to sort of manage the design without having more layers, which I couldn't have anymore in the canvas. At this point, I was just like, I'll map out the colors and then I'll render everything on PC. I tried a lot of colors, but I kept coming back to this purple yellow. I do have like a jacket that's very similar to that. But the blue design was also one of my favorite picks because it had like elements from my first design and my design for this one, which is just this like, I don't know what you call this blue, but it's just like a sort of desaturated blue-green. I think one of the most painful parts of the process of making a design is sort of eliminating the ones that are sort of good but not good enough. And you have to make a lot of decisions for whether you should go with this or go with that, so that you can have a final product that you can go with. From this point on, by the way, this will be the Clip Studio portion of the rendering or the rough sheet making process. There's this sort of black border that Clip Studio has. I think it might be because I resized the canvas and it didn't know what to adjust, so it just sort of put everything in the center. I'm not really sure how to crop it in Premiere either, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Yeah, I'm sorry. Depending on the artist, there's different ways that people might approach working on the rough sheet. I am not very fond of doing line art, so I would just clean up a sketch and put colors under it, merge everything, and then start rendering. I feel like this gives me more freedom to sort of make mistakes and just paint over the mistakes if they get too much. And at this point, I did end up doing the full body instead of having the just like the upper portion of the design. I think I wanted to show the design of the shoes. These shoes, by the way, don't make the final cut. I know they look like clown shoes. At the point that I was making this, at this point of the process, I thought they looked nice. And then I woke up in the morning, looked at them, and I realized they looked like clown shoes. So I spent like maybe 6 hours just figuring out how I could make them better and make them cooler. I'm sorry that I'm not very good at drawing shoes and I ended up drawing clown shoes. But that's sort of later edits, so for now you're just gonna have to sit through the clown shoes. They're gonna be there for a while since I only realized that I didn't like them at the very end of the process of making this rough sheet. At this point, I tried to make some design elements in the back. You can probably make your rough sheet just have like a flat color or like a flat pattern in the back. But I really do like the rough sheets that have a bit more graphic design elements to them, even though I'm not particularly good at making those designs as well. But I just wanted to try something out. I think I missed the part where I made those little triangle color palette rectangles. Triangles. You can sort of do any shape. I see a lot of people doing hearts or something that's kind of in accordance with your design. This design has a lot of like color block and like geometrical shapes sort of in a design, so I chose the triangle. I thought it sort of fit. For you, if your design has a lot of hearts or maybe like a lot of ribbons, you can make the shape for the color palette have that sort of design element. I think, you know, it's not too important, but it's quite nice if the color palette also works with the overall ref sheet. And there's just a lot of rendering. Here is the shoes. Oh wait, I actually fixed the shoes this early on. I'm sorry, this video was recorded a month ago. I don't remember a lot of things. But yeah, apparently I started fixing it the day after. This must be day 2 of me working on this ref sheet. And here, just sort of rendering these shoes. These shoes took forever, but they look really fast because I'm speeding through it, and there's also a time lapse, so it's like sped through and sped up again. I really do remember struggling with them a lot, to the point I was just like, can I just like wear flip-flops? Because these are not working out. I ended up looking at a lot of shoe design. I went to Pinterest and typed cool shoes and sort of just looked at the different cool shoes. That's another tip I can give if you're making a ref sheet and then there's some parts that you can't make sense of, or you don't know how to make sense of. I'd recommend just looking up references. Always just look up references when you're getting a little confused with different elements that you're not familiar with, or different elements that you haven't tried out before. So you can sort of see that I have moments where I'm cutting out the different portions of the design. This is because I merged everything down to a layer. So when there's something I completely need to change the perspective of, I need to cut it out and like make a new layer on top of it, and kind of fill up the space that I did cut out. So that's what happened for the back pose. I wasn't quite set on the pose yet, but I already had it merged all together so that I could render the colors better. And that sort of came up as an issue, but that's like a skill issue. No, that's a design, not really design. That's a style issue. That's how I would do things. And I don't know if it would be faster if I line arted everything, but this is just the way that I do it and the way that I'm most familiar with. If you're really good at line art, well, props to you. Maybe it'll be a lot simpler and you won't have to do the extra things that I do for my rough sheets or my designs or even just my art. At this point, I try out different gradients and just do different designs, and I even make the logo directly from the rough sheet. There was like an empty space there that I thought would be really perfect for a logo, but I didn't have a new logo, so I designed one just right here. And it's a very simple logo. I've had a couple of logos before, and I think going too hard on the design has been a detriment to me, since I'm a changeling and there's a lot of design elements that change from time to time. And yeah, I was like, you know what if I just go simple? Since the name is the only thing that I don't change as much, I might as well just keep it simple and just have simple elements on it. And so it's a very simple, quick logo that was handmade. I made the font by hand, basically tracing over a sketch of a wording or like a calligraphy that I did. I don't really know if that counts as calligraphy, but my dumb brain was just like, what if I just write everything by hand? So a lot of the typography in this ref sheet, I think all of the typography in this ref sheet is by hand. So around this point, I was just like, should I just finish it this way? I was sort of putting all the design elements in one side and sort of deciding to just crop it down so that I could be finally done with the ref sheet. But I did end up holding off on posting the ref sheet until the next day, where I woke up and decided that I wanted to suffer. And I added more elements to the ref sheet and gave myself more of a headache. I was just really tired of the ref sheet, but my brain was just like, you can make it better. You can make it better. And you know what? I do think that the additional elements did make it better somewhat, but it was just a lot more pain than it was worth, which is just art sometimes. And you know, if you do want to add more elements, and if you feel like you can do it, then do it. But something simple like just the front view, just like the 1/3 of the left part of this ref sheet is good enough. And like if you want to add like a back view or like additional details, those are things that you should add afterwards if you still have time and if you still have energy to do it. as sort of my method for measure if we should still keep going with the design. But yeah, apparently my perfectionism hit in this part, and I was just like, what if I make it more difficult on myself? And what I did for these little boxes with the expressions is I just sort of had a rough sketch, and because I was a bit lazy, I made it a lot more difficult on myself by just putting the colors in the back and merging it all together and just rendering it just on top, which is like, it works. It works as a method for drawing, but there's a lot of cleanup involved, especially if you're like me and you're a very messy sketch artist. So my sketches are usually very rough, and yet I still decide to do this method of rendering just because, I guess. And yeah, I do try to layer a lot of the parts that I feel like I'm not quite set with yet. But usually when I get too tired of switching between layers, I just end up merging them together. A very helpful thing that I did was this nice white outline that helped me kind of make the art pop out more. I don't know any other programs other than Clip Studio that does this so that you can have the outline thing. And it's quite convenient for a lot of designs that I do, because I sort of want to see how it looks before I finish the thing. So yeah, just a lot of rendering at this point. I'm really quite proud of myself for drawing hands in each of these different things. So the front has hands, the back pose has hands, and also the little expressions each have at least one hand. No, they all have one hand. Okay. And you know what? As someone who usually avoids drawing hands, I gotta give myself some kudos for actually drawing them at this time. And yeah, so this is the final ref sheet. Kind of sped through everything, and it looked much faster than how long it actually took me. I think it took me about 3 days in like different intervals. I did not spend an entire 3 days to finish it, but I did spend most of those days actually just working on these ref sheets, to the point where I was just going crazy. I was just like, why am I doing this to myself? I could just as easily settle for what I already have. But I pushed myself and I made something I'm really proud of. And if you're thinking of making a ref sheet, even if you're not the best artist in your own eyes, I feel like you should try it out, just so you could sort of have an improvement, and you can test out drawing outfits. You can test out designing. You can test out graphic design if you do like the little background things. You can test out color coordination and seeing what looks good and what looks not good. You can test out shoes, and you can test out suffering as an artist. And through that suffering, or through the trial and error of working on art, you will get better, you will improve. I think that working on a lot of ref sheets has slowly improved my full body drawing skills. It's a lot less scary for me to now draw full bodies than it was when I didn't do ref sheets before, and I usually just drew bust or like half bodies. Like, I feel like feet are something that a lot of artists don't focus on practicing. And I guess this is kind of going on a tangent now. We're not talking about illustrations, we're just talking about ref sheets in this video. And even though it was sort of sped up, I hope you did learn something from this video. And I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to make it, and that I didn't post a lot last month. I've just been really busy with like moving out. I spent like the majority of last month moving into the new place and settling in, and being very unused to my new surroundings, and just sleeping very badly, and just doing my best overall. Currently I'm working on an Etsy store, but I don't know if I'm gonna stick with Etsy. I might just make my own separate store, and that's sort of what I've been working on. And I do want to make more videos soon. Yeah, I hope you like this puppet PNG that I did work on. I didn't have time to finish a model yet, and I do want to finish a model properly before the end of this month, so that I can do some horror game streams. I don't know who'd be interested in that, but a lot of people have requested horror games in my previous streams when I was streaming on Twitch. I'm still thinking if I do still want to continue streaming on Twitch again. Twitch is a little oof right now, but it's still a little more optimized for streaming. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. There's still a lot of things that are on my mind that I'm thinking of. And just to not make this video any longer, we're just gonna end it here. If you have any questions, do ask them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And thank you so much for supporting the channel. And thank you so much for 12,000. Right now we have 12,000 subscribers. Like, that's so insane to me. And I do want the channel to grow more, but I am just a generally overwhelmed person, and I'm working on so many things right now that it's a struggle for me to maintain a more consistent streaming and like video release schedule. But I'm working on it, and hopefully I get things sorted out soon. When I have a bit more money saved up, I'll do a giveaway to thank everyone for subscribing and supporting the channel. I wanted to do a giveaway for so long, but I've just like been very financially unstable, and I'm like, I need to take commissions, so I cannot give away free art for the moment. So I'm sorry about that. But yes, maybe soon. Stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Why am I telling you this at the very end of the video? Like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye. またね。じゃあね。バイバイ。再见。